Today we're going to go over how to get playlists set up for easy game launching within Retroarch. So to get started, first thing we're going to need is, of course, Retroarch. If you don't already have it, head over to retroarch.com, click download, scroll to the bottom, and click on these nightly builds. So just look for the folder that is running your operating system, whether that be Linux, Mac, Windows. So of course I'm on Windows, so we're going to click on Windows. My internet is slow. And we're going to choose the 64-bit version. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom once it decides it wants to work. There we go. So you're going to go ahead and click on the retroarch.7zip file here to download it. And if for whatever reason it gives you an error when you try to boot it, just go ahead and download this redistributable file right here and you will be good to go. So now we're going to look at how to make playlists. So after you get Retroarch installed where you want it to, go ahead and open it up. And you should be greeted with something like this. Press F to go to full screen. And once you're there, you can scroll all the way over to the right. And you can see there is a scan directory, scan file system here. And that is how you make your playlists. But go ahead and click scan directory. Scroll to the directory that your games are stored in. So I put mine here. And I'm going to start with my Game Boy folder. So we're going to go ahead and scan this directory. And after it's finished, you should be able to back out, and you can see that there are now two different Game Boy folders. Two different Game Boy playlists, one for Game Boy Color, one for Game Boy. And they're both going to load into my Same Boy core that we got set up in a previous tutorial. So go through and continue scanning all of your directories that you want to make playlists for. And when you're done, you should see a new icon for each of the systems that you made a playlist for. If you don't see an icon, you either don't have the core installed, which is the case for me right now. I don't have the cores installed for all of these systems, or your games are in the wrong format and the playlist scanner doesn't know how to add them to a playlist properly. So, of course, just go over to, if you don't have the core, of course, go over to Online Updater, Core Updater, and you just need to download the cores you're missing. So I am missing my Super Nintendo core. For these tutorials, I always delete the previous instance of Retroarch every so often. So we're going to go ahead and re-download some cores here. So we needed Saturn. We need PSP. And then we need PlayStation. So now, when I go back over to the scan directory file, I can go back into those directories that I scanned previously that didn't work, and now it will find those games properly. See, we now have Super Nintendo showing up flawlessly. And now, a lot of you have asked me this question for PlayStation, how to make playlists on it. And honestly, it can't really recognize PBB files in previous versions of Retroarch. I don't know if it can on 1.7.4. We'll find out right now together. But in the case of this, there is a wonderful workaround that is very simple to do, and I will show that to you momentarily. I'm just going to finish scanning these last couple directories. Alright, perfect. So as you can see, we've got Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Game Boy, N64, SNES, and Saturn. As you can tell, the PSP and PlayStation playlists did not get scanned in correctly, and this is due to them not being in the expected file format that Retroarch is looking for. I also don't have all of my Saturn games showing up as well due to the fact that I have some of those zipped. So in this instance, you scroll all the way back over to the main menu here, and you can hit Show Desktop Menu. So go ahead and hit Enter on that. It'll bring up your it'll bring up this nice little thing telling you what some of the hotkeys are, which is really cool. As you can see, the Game Boy cores are showing up as Same Boy, and it tells us what files we might be missing that are either required or optional. So we can set this to happen with all of the cores. As you can see, it's not loading up MGBA as the default core, so you can right click, hit Associate Core, MGBA. And now when we click on the Game Boy Advance section, we can see that we do have our GBA BIOS that we implemented in one of our previous tutorials. So as you scroll through, you can just go ahead and set these playlist associations, and you can see any files that you might be missing. As you can see on Hygen, it just needs a ton. Alright, so I went ahead and got all of my system folders set up again, and now when you click on Saturn, you can see that the BIOS is once again present. And of course, the cores do stay set once you're able to successfully set them and use them. But if you remember earlier, I said that I had some games zipped or in improper format for some of these systems. So if I click on Saturn and I go to add a file, I can scroll manually over to our game folder, Saturn, and you can see that I have Panzer Dragoon zipped up right here. And guess what? That doesn't work. It doesn't work for the game. So go ahead and extract it. If you have any of your CD-based games zipped, you can use front ends like Launchbox. That'll unzip them prior to launching, but as far as Retroarch is concerned, it cannot boot CD-based games as a zip. It'll just extract the Q file, but not the bin file, and thus it will not launch. So now we can go ahead and select this Q file. It's going to ask you what core it's for. And we'll tell it's for Sega Saturn. There we go. All set. And now we have a brand new entry to our playlist. Prior to Retroarch 1.7.4, you had to do all of this inside of a text editor, and it was a complete hassle. But now, nice and simple. Bam. So let's go ahead and get our PlayStation 1 playlist set up, because as you know, I like to use .pbp files because it keeps multi-disc game images as a single file, allows you to switch between disc images really fast, and it compresses them to save a lot of space. Go ahead and right click, new playlist. And if you want it to show up like the rest of these playlists have, just type in Sony PlayStation. Make sure you put the capital S and make sure you spell it right, and then it'll pop up with the PlayStation icon and just be ready to go. So go ahead and right click, hit add folder. Scroll down to where you have your games stored, so PS1, select the folder, tell it that it's going to be to your PlayStation core, PlayStation database, and hit OK. And there are all of your PS1 games that were included in that folder, and these are all in the .pbp format, and it picked them up just fine. So again, you could try to launch one, and it is working just fine. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Now, for whatever reason, you scroll over and it doesn't show your new playlist. Just go ahead and exit out of Retroarch and open back up. And when you scroll over, you can see that it now has your new PlayStation playlist set up and ready to go. So now I'm going to do the same thing for PlayStation Portable. So new playlist, Sony PlayStation Portable. And then I'm going to add a folder. Scroll down. PSP, select folder. Core association is going to be PPSSPP, database, PlayStation Portable. Bam. And there's my 4 PSP games. And it works just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of Retroarch once again to make it so the playlist will show up inside of the navigation. just like so. And there you have it, easy playlist creation from within RetroArch and utilizing the new desktop manager that came with 1.7.4. Thank you so much, RetroArch developers, for implementing that desktop manager. It makes things so much easier than the old method of having to use a text editor. Let me tell you, that thing sucked. That is why I went to using other front ends. Of course, other front ends do have a lot more functionality, but for those of you that want to just keep it to RetroArch, the playlist system works really, really good now, and you also have a very easy way of editing it. So, as always, thank you so much for watching these videos. It means the world to me that you guys take the time out of your day to watch these, and I'm hoping they help you guys out as well. So, if you haven't already, make sure to hit that sub button, like, dislike button, depending how much you like this video. If you have any questions, always feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, guys, we will see you all back next video.